Captain's Log, Episode 60. This week's episode of the Beer Ventures podcast is sponsored by the Beer and Cheese Collective, located at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens, open 7 days a week. More in the mood for wine than beer? They've got you covered with their new wine list, complete with cheese pairings. Enjoy their eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items at the Beer and Cheese Collective. New name, same great place. Also sponsored by Wanderlinger Brewing Company on 1208 King Street in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Whether you're local to Chattanooga or just making a stop along whatever road or trail you've chosen, we hope you'll stop by for a drink, swap some stories, and maybe even find your new favorite beer. Wander on, linger often. This week, Captain of the Beer Wonder welcomed return guest beer venger Dunkle Dame to tell us all about her beer ventures in the Virgin Islands, Chattanooga, and much more. Also on the Beer Cast this week, event coordinator from Wanderlinger Brewing and host of their monthly beer school series, Molly Lamb. I could go on, but where would the mystery be in that? Remember to like, star, and subscribe whenever that feels appropriate. And send us your emails at thebeervengers@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you just like hearing us talk about you on the show. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 60, The Rereturn of Dame Hazy Molly.
Well, we're the beer vengers, beer vengers, beer vengers.
We're the Beer Vengers.
Welcome to the Beer Cast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens, I am Captain Porter Brownstout.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder.
And coming to you in a cowboy hat wearing part of the world, this is the Dunkle Dame.
And we are the
Beer Vengers. Wow, the Dunkle Dame keeps us in line, Captain.
She does. I couldn't sustain that as long as you two could. So nicely done, both of you.
You know, I'm just here kind of bringing that baritone in when needed.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
that.
It was wonderful, wonderful and harmonious, and a great way to kick off the show. Welcome everyone, all of our beer vengers out there. Those of us who are in here in our 3 virtual locations. It's great to be here. Not only with the Beer Wonder as always, but our special guest, the Dunkle Dame. Welcome back to the show again.
Woohoo! Dunkle Dame is back.
I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. I miss you guys. You know, as you know, I don't live in New York anymore. I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So it's really wonderful to see your smiling faces and to get to have a beer with you virtually. I love it.
Always. And I love that the Tennessee's got a little Tennessee in there. So
Tennessee.
You're picking up a little bit of the local flavor. I love it.
Well, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and so I think when my 12 years in New York, I kind of lost my Southern accent. So now it's coming back a little bit, not compared to some of my wonderful neighbors, but it's coming back a little bit.
Well, I'm glad it's coming back, and I'm glad you've come back again. And I understand that you may have heard at the beginning of the show that we have another co-sponsor this week, and that's we'll have another special guest that Dunkle Dame has brought with her, and so that person will be joining us, who you may recognize as well from other episodes. But before we get into all of that and our weekend beer, and actually it's been 3 weeks or so, I think I'm getting thirsty here. So
thirsty.
So I think
parched. One might even say.
Absolutely. So I think it's time we get to the pours, right?
Yeah, it's 90 degrees here, so I need a beer.
All right.
Well,
very
Dunkle
good.
Dame, with that, it would only be polite if you went first.
Excellent.
It is not 90 degrees in Gotham, I will say that.
I am doing a fun sort of mixture. I am mixing a Hazy New England style IPA with a wonderful raspberry kettle sour. So I'm going to start. May I go ahead and
Molly,
start?
I read his Dunkel Dame before you. I should say, this beer, both of these beers you're pouring are
Sponsored pour.
They sure are.
They're sponsored
Yes.
pours. We actually don't have a sound bite for the plural, so this is the first time someone has done a mixture, and what a wonderful way to start.
Yeah, we got Wanderlinger Brewing Company out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where I work, and we'll get into that a little bit later. They were very kind and super excited to sponsor this episode with the Beer Avengers. So yeah, I'm going to be pouring their Raspberry Cub, which has a very cute little bear on the logo. We like to call this Raz Cub for short. And then Juice Caboose, one of our flagship beers, and I have never done a beer mixing before, but I learned it at Wanderlinger, and I thought it'd be a fun thing to do for the episode.
Absolutely.
It's great that after this is episode 60, and in 60 episodes, we're still breaking new ground. So have at it.
As it should be. Should be. The Beer Avengers work is never done.
No.
Awesome. I love it. Oh, I can't believe I'm breaking ground. I'm going to go ahead and crack open the Hazy New England style IPA, the Juice Caboose from Wanderlinger. And I'm going to pour a little bit of that first.
Oh my goodness. It's not as hazy as I would expect. It looks a little bit clear, at least from my angle.
Yeah, I did kind of a bad pour, but
there's no bad pours. There's also no bad beer, really. Well, no, there is bad beer. I would say that there is bad beer.
More bad,
yes. It's been a long time since I've poured on a podcast. And now I'm going in with the Raspberry Cub, our kettle sour.
Fun.
That's lovely.
Oh, look at that fluffy head on there.
I know. And it's giving it more of a, it's interesting because it went from a little bit of a lighter sort of like goldeny thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much berry that it has in it, but I am sensing a slightly purple or blue hue now.
Absolutely. It's got like this gorgeous kind of purpley color. You can see it a little bit in the can, but yeah, I'm going to add just a touch more, and it just kind of softens the sourness of it. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, I have my nice little
You're getting ahead of yourself with that beer.
Yes. Look at this fluffy, pillowy head.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous. All right, well, Captain, you were the one who was parched, so why don't you take it?
Sure. So I have another
Sponsored pour.
Another sponsored pour from our co-sponsors at Wanderlinger this week.
What are the chances?
This is an oatmeal stout. It is called Stout of Tune. Comes in at a beautiful 5.8%. And I believe this one recently won some kind of award at the World Beer Cup, or was it the World?
Yes,
okay, I wasn't sure it was the World. It was just the country, even if it's just the country, that's a lot of breweries. But yeah,
no, totally. But the Stout of Tune from Wanderlinger won the bronze medal at the World Beer Cup in the category of oatmeal stouts. We were super excited because this was their biggest year yet with over 10,000 entries. So super excited, and one of our first kind of like official awards. We haven't entered many contests, but we were very excited about that.
Excellent. All right, we're going to open this up here. Well, there we go.
Oh, good crack on that one.
Take a look at this one.
Okay. Oh, Captain, this is a beer for your soul, I believe.
It is.
This is a captain's beer.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's funny, like looking at it through the light as it's pouring in, it looks like kind of light, but it's landing in the glass very dark with a nice subtle head there.
I'm excited to see what you think about this, Captain, because it's, to me, our beers all have just like a beautiful dry finish to them, and this one's no exception. It's a very drinkable stout.
Excellent.
That's a lovely sort of signature to have, a dry finish.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a nice, I was just chatting with some folks about like how nice a dry finish can actually be, where some people find it kind of cloying, but it's a nice like, aha, and we've reached the end. Like it's a nice like period, punctuation on a beer.
Yes.
I think. Mm-hmm.
I would agree. And we do that well.
Yes.
All right. Well, Beer Wonder, I think it's your turn.
I know. Well, this is going to shock everyone. Literally, get ready for it, because today I have a
sponsored pour.
Of course you do. Of course you've got a sponsored pour. Also from
Wanderlinger Brewing Company. Now, here's the thing. I do want to acknowledge this. So I'm also going to be drinking the Juice Caboose, but in a pure form today. But I want to acknowledge just the loveliness of this can and a few things that I really enjoy about the can. So first off, it does say "Wander on, linger often" at the top. Is that that's the trademark?
That is our slogan. Yeah, we have like a couple slogans. One is "We are art," and I'll get into why that is a slogan. But yeah, wander on, linger often. We're kind of free spirits at Wander Linger, and the owner Mike and Chris Dial, they're brothers, they're the owners, and Mike loves to kind of he's a big nature activist, and he loves to sort of wander in the woods and feels that it's very healing for him to just kind of linger in that environment, and he wanted to bring that into his beers and his tap room as well.
That's awesome. And that was the other thing I wanted to point out, knowing that about him, is there's a little thing on the base of my can, I bet it's on all the cans, that says leave no trace. And it's got a little leaf and a little recycling element. Because just looking at this beer, I'm already thinking this is going to be an excellent trail beer if you go on a hike. But I cannot wait to drink it. So let's crack it open.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Love that sound.
And it smells delicious. It's got peaches all over the can, and I already am getting a little bit of a peach aroma out of it.
Oh man, you are so good, Beer Wonder, because there is a major stone fruit vibe happening with this beer, with the English yeast that we use, and it does give that stone fruit vibe. You're good, man.
Well, and it's jumping out of the can. It looks so beautiful here.
Great. Excellent. Raise a glass.
Yes.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Oh, that's very nice.
Ooh, this is perfect. My little mixture.
Ooh, okay, I dig this. Now, I totally get the stone fruit character that you guys have here. But what is so nice about it is, and perhaps this is like suggestion, but I am definitely getting a punctuation of bitterness at the very, very end.
Yes.
Like, kind of sweet on the nose, kind of smooth. I mean, it's smooth. It's got this like this bite of bitterness that really complements the fruitiness of it. It's got that lovely yin and yang.
Yeah.
And what I like about that is that, it is a 6% beer, so it's got some kick to it, but it's slowing me down as I drink it. It is making me sort of linger a little bit with these flavors. And I think that like that little kick of bitter, even though it feels like, oh, it's so fruity, I'm just going to chug this one down, it's making me stop and slow down and think about the beer. And I really enjoy that. It feels like that little like hit of bitter at the end pulls us back and reminds us like, oh yeah, you're drinking a really good beer. You should like take a moment with it.
I love that. That's a really great description of the beer. And yeah, we use some Citra hops in it, so you get that nice juice and kind of floralness to it a little bit too. And I do love that it has that slightly bitter finish. I feel like it's a hazy IPA that someone who typically drinks a West Coast IPA could maybe get behind.
Ooh, that is very true. Yes. It's not quite as resiny as I'd expect for a West Coast, so it's a little bit more approachable in that way, but it does give me that little like, ooh, bite right at the very end. That's kind of exciting. So. Yeah,
I just took a sip out of the can. It's one of my favorite beers. And Beer Wonder, as you pointed out, there is that little flower on the can here.
Yep.
That is called a tulip poplar, and that is the state flower of Tennessee. And so that is the Wanderlinger logo.
Oh, wow.
And the cool thing about Wanderlinger is we are Chattanooga's very only fully compostable brewery. So front of house and back of house, we are fully compostable. So environmental activism is something that's really important to us. We do monthly cleanups where we'll go down to different creeks because Tennessee is very outdoorsy, and Chattanooga specifically, there's a lot of water here. So we'll go do something called Pick Up for a Pint. So people will meet us at different creeks and lake areas around, and we'll pick up trash, and then we'll take them back to the brewery and everyone gets a pint. So I think that's pretty cool about Wanderlinger.
Oh, that is very cool. I love the environmental bent. And I love that you guys are composting and bringing people together. Honestly, this is the beer I would want after doing a cleanup. Like, really just like the perfect, like, we did a good thing. Cheers, everybody.
Yes. Captain, how's your stout?
I think it's really, really solid. It tastes a little like we were talking about the dryness, a little bit of that dry Irish stout sort of thing. Not as like harsh as say like a Russian Imperial stout. But not sweet like a pastry stout either. It's just like, it's really good. There's almost something, I can't quite put my finger on it. There's something a little fruity to it. As far as some of the undertones, I mean, it's like chocolate on top, and there's something that's like, I can't quite identify it, but it's reminding me of some like fruit profiles. And I just, but again, not in a sweet way. It's just sort of it's just there, and it's just really really good. It's a nice. I mean, it's 5.8%. It's just it's right around there where a black lager is, except more full bodied than that. Not much more substantial than a Schwarzbier, but really really good.
Yeah, it is a good. I agree with you. It has the Stout of Tune has like a nice dry finish, and it does kind of get into that Irish stout category. That kind of like dry, lighter bodied stout. Very drinkable, even on a hot day. So yeah, I think it's just a well done beer, especially if you're not used to drinking stouts. I find it very approachable.
So yeah, you think if someone were sort of thinking they were anti-stout, this might be a good thing to start them on.
Yeah, and it's not sweet. You get a little bit of that bitter, but then you do get some of those kind of roasty coffee tones to it as well. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm sorry I only have this one. And I won't tell anyone our secret beer vengery ways that you got this beer to us because there are certain ways that we can transport it through our underground beer road. Oh no, no.
Well, the beer vengers are fully connected.
Yes.
I mean, clearly, if you need help, a beer venger will be there to help you. I feel like that is the real story.
That's how
here.
it works. Yes.
Yeah, we do have secret ways. Yeah, the Dunkel Dame. I am a superhero of the beer world, so I have ways of getting beer to special people.
And we appreciate your special powers.
Yes. Well, speaking of, you've put those special powers to use in the creation of a melange this evening, as Huck would be happy to hear us say, which is, of course, when you are mixing two beers together in order to create a delicious beer cocktail, as one might even say. So, how is this mix of these two beers?
Yeah. So again, I mixed our Juice Caboose that the Beer Wonder is drinking, which is our Hazy New England IPA. And then our kettle sour called the Raspberry Cub. And I can't personally, I cannot do a ton of sour. I mean, after all, I'm the Dunkel Dame.
Naturally.
But I do like a little bit of that tartness, especially, it is 90 degrees here today in Chattanooga. It's hot. So a sour beer is in order. And I find that it just softens it when you add the New England IPA into it. I do a little bit more of the sour because I ultimately want my melange to be a little bit of a sour beer, but it softens it when you add the Juice Caboose to it. And it gives it a little bit more of this just kind of stone fruit, juicy aroma, and a little bit more of a palatable finish to it because it's not going to be as dry of a finish as a sour beer would be.
Does it also soften the hop profile of the IPA?
It will, for sure, absolutely. Yeah. The IBUs of the Raspberry Cub is going to be a lot lower than of the Juice Caboose, of course, which is just a beautifully dry hopped beer. But yeah, it's going to kind of soften that resiny quality that you're getting from the hops, or if you don't want it overly juicy, the sourness is going to kind of tone that down too. So you just sort of get this really nice balance, and it's just a very crushable beer, if I do say so myself.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like
Crush it, Dunkel Dame.
Absolutely. I should also say
you are crushing it.
You are. You got us some other great beers that we're not going to be drinking on the podcast today, but I do want to mention them.
Oh yes, very excited.
I'm noticing. I guess this is because even though occasionally there have been bears spotted in New Jersey, Tennessee is especially bear country. So not only do you have this raspberry sour goza, but also you sent me because Beer Wonder doesn't do the sours so much.
Not so much. No,
you sent me the blackberry, which is also a bear, but it's blackberry sour, and that I'm looking forward to trying that one, as well as a Czech Pilsner, which if I'm remembering I think is called Stimulus Czech.
Stimulus Czech, yeah. Yes. Yeah, and the Blackberry Hug is nice. It's a little bit more of a robust kettle sour. Okay. It is, I believe, 7 or 8% ABV, and we use a lot of fresh blackberries in the fermentation, and it actually ferments a little bit longer than most sour beers, the way we do it. So yeah, it's got a little bit more of a punch. It's a higher alcohol, and that's a great one. It's going to have a little bit more of a robust flavor than the Raspberry Cub. So that's a great, great one.
Looking forward to trying it.
Yeah.
Well,
Little tip with that one, if you're into the mixing, adding it into like a little prosecco for like your own sort of mimosa vibe is good. It's also great on its own.
You're speaking my Sunday brunch experience right now. I feel like that's the way to go for that one. Get them poached eggs in there.
Well, since we've jumped in feet first into your Wanderlinger story, I feel like it's those epic poems where they used to call it jumping into in medias res, in the middle of things.
Yes.
Because there's a few other things that's been going on with you since last time we talked to you. I think you had just gotten to Chattanooga and you're off for an adventure in the Virgin Islands, and then you came back. But so how did your path go from there to back again to where you are now?
I know. I mean, it's like I've done a lot. I was the podcast host and the Virgin Islands. I am basically trying to soak up all the experience I can have in the beautiful industry of craft beer. And
well,
so
it's endless. It's limitless.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. And so I've just been trying to kind of find my right spot. You know, I've been so lucky with the most amazing opportunities, and the biggest thank you to everyone who has given me any kind of opportunity. I'm just extremely grateful. I've had a ton of learning experiences, and the Virgin Islands was really cool. So I was working at Leatherback Brewing down there on St. Thomas Island, and I have to say I miss it. I only was there for a month. My trip got a little cut short because my boyfriend was in a extremely bad accident. Oof. And yeah, it was really bad. He basically like broke his whole face and hurt his knee really bad. He is totally fine now. He had amazing surgeons here in Chattanooga, but that is why the trip got cut short. We were there for 4 weeks and we had to come home to get him proper medical care, and he is doing amazing now. And he had incredible surgeons here, and you know, obviously big thank you to them. But I loved my time in St. Thomas, obviously other than that tragic accident. But you know, Leatherback was amazing. They threw me a going away party after 4 weeks. They were the
so
nice,
sweet.
like, I actually really, really miss them. It was such a great community. Those little island communities are very tight knit because they've been through, you know, hurricanes, and, you know, you're kind of like your own little, like, group of misfits on an island. So it's a very, like, it's just a really fun vibe. And they were making such amazing craft beer and really pushing the envelope of comfort down there to people. Like, they were making a lot of dark beers, which I feel like island places really are not. So they were getting people out of their comfort zone, which personally I just loved. Yeah, so Captain, you would love Leatherback because they had a couple really good, like,
sorry you weren't there long enough for me to come visit you.
I know, me too. I will definitely be down there again because it was an amazing experience working there. So yeah, I came back to Chattanooga in February and was just kind of on the job hunt and messaging a lot of the local breweries, and I was very specific about what I wanted. And I was being very picky. You know, I was like, I wanted to help with events and live music, also spearhead a beer school program, which I did in St. Thomas. And I stumbled upon Wanderlinger, and the owners, Chris and Mike Dial, just have given me such opportunity. I started in February, and so my title is their events coordinator. So I help people who want to host private events like a birthday party, a graduation party. I help them get set up with catering. We have an amazing executive chef, Chef Carolyn. She's incredible. And so she'll help with the catering and get all that done. We also are a great live music venue. So I help a little bit with like advancing the shows and things like that. The team is incredible. Sunshine is a woman that has worked at Wanderlinger since day one, and she's been an amazing mentor to me. Yes, I know her name's Sunshine, and she is that lovely. Like, she lives up to the name. And
That's wonderful.
She's just been like such a mentor and really amazing to me, and just shown me the ropes of things. And I host our monthly beer school. I host it the last Saturday of each month at 3 p.m. And I give everyone a flight, kind of talk about the history of beer, take them on a tour of production, show them what all the, you know, all that crazy equipment is for, and then just kind of hang out with them. And, you know, it's just a really, really good time. And I'm hoping my role will grow with them because it's just part-time right now, but I am absolutely loving it. It's just the whole team is so nice. The owners are great. The beer is fantastic. And we're doing music. We have an art gallery in there, which is curated by Rick Herman, who he's an artist himself. And he curates all these amazing Chattanooga artists. And we have this just awesome little art gallery. Our last art show was the Big Lebowski themed. So everyone like made amazing Big Lebowski artwork, and it was so, so cool. He also hosts our poetry night. So big shout out to Rick. He's really bringing a lot of art into Wanderlinger. So that's another one of our slogans, as I mentioned earlier, is we are art. You know, we're making art, we're producing art, we're, you know, booking art. We have it all around us all the time. And it's really awesome to work in that environment.
And I should say, I know we teased earlier, said that Dunkle Dame was bringing another guest with her, and as you might be able to tell, that guest is here. The guest is the Dunkle Dame's alter ego, Molly Lamb of Wanderlinger Brewing.
Yes. Yeah, I have a split personality. Sometimes I'm Molly Lamb.
Well,
I
was turned out because anytime we have people who are in the industry, we don't always commit to giving them Beer Venger names because they want to be able to talk about their business properly. But now you're sort of a hybrid, so that's why you're two guests in one. Tell us a little more about Wanderlinger, how they got started, how long they've been around.
Yeah, so Wanderlinger, like I mentioned, they started with the two brothers, Chris and Mike Dial. They're the owners, and they opened about 3.5 years ago. December 1st, 2018, I think was the exact opening date. And, you know, Chris, he has a very sales kind of corporate background. He actually worked for Enterprise for a long time. So he does a lot of the numbers and more logistical stuff. And Mike, his younger brother, was a award-winning homebrewer for years. Yeah, he won awards for his homebrew, and he did it for a long time. And he was, I can't remember his exact title, but Mike worked in the environmental science world. So that is why he really pushed for us to be fully compostable and do cleanups and things like that. He's a huge advocate for environmental awareness around Tennessee, so it's super cool. And he also does all the music booking. He knows like all the musicians in town. Mike's super cool, so is Chris. They're really, really nice guys. And one thing I love about them is they really listen to their employees. You know, they'll really ask, you know, what do you think? And they really kind of bring you in and let you expand and spread your wings. You know, I was just like, I basically made up my own title. I said, can I be an events coordinator and like start a beer school? And they're like, yeah, that sounds great, you know? And it's just gone so, so well. And their business is doing great. And they won their, you know, very first award at the World Beer Cup this year for their Stout of Tune in the Oatmeal Stout category. And I just couldn't be prouder to work for this company. It's just been a great fit for me.
Oh, very cool. So you're, go ahead.
Oh, I want to know more about beer school.
Well, okay, same thing. So yeah, we're about to ask the same question.
I was gonna say the captain and I are always on the same page. Yes. But here's the thing: like beer school. So we're getting the image up. We'll throw some stuff on the Instagram, of course.
Yes, there's nothing Stout of Tune about our connection.
No, we're right there. But I just want to know, like, how did you come up with this? Talk to me about what your hopes are, like, and what can I expect if I come to beer school with the incredible Molly Lamb / Dunkle Dame.
I love this question. So beer school, I realized kind of in my, you know, few different jobs I've had in this industry in a very short time. I've only worked in the craft beer industry like 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. I'm really passionate about craft beer education because there's not a ton out there. Like, obviously you can Google things, but that's sort of lonely. You're kind of just doing that by yourself, and maybe you retain it, maybe you don't. And you know, there's not a ton of women talking about beer. There's much more now. And so I just thought there was a need in the market for, you know, a female voice and just for beer education. So basically what beer school is, it's just $20 and you get a flight of beer. So you get 4 5-ounce pours. And I just kind of, I just picked like different ones each time. We usually have like at least like 12 beers on tap or something. So there's a nice little variety. And so first I kind of walk everyone through a proper 5-step beer appraisal. I go through.
Love it.
Yeah, it probably sounds a little familiar.
A little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's so valid to teach people how to appreciate beer and to really appraise it, so that they understand what they're drinking and why it looks that way, why it smells that way, why it tastes that way, why it feels that way in your mouth, and why it finishes that way. And then I take everyone on a tour of production and I show them what all of that big crazy equipment is for. So I spend about, 20 minutes just walking through the mash tun and the milling process and the fermenters and what all of it's for and all of that. And it's super cool. And then, it kind of varies on the group depending on the questions people have. And then we'll go sit back down at the table and we'll kind of finish our beers together. So they learn about the history of craft beer, how to appraise beer and the brewing process. And then, I always love to start things with a nice, fun icebreaker, which probably sounds
always good.
familiar also.
Always good. Well, I want to know, what are the most common questions that people are getting? Like when people are starting out in beer, because, a lot of the people who listen to our beer cast know about beer, but some people are sort of new to it. So like, what are the biggest questions that these people who you're sort of bringing into the beer world are asking you?
Yeah, it kind of depends. I had someone in my class the last time, and I use the word class loosely. I kind of put it in quotes. Like,
well, if it's called beer school, you can call it class.
Yeah, it's like, it's educational, but it's also supposed to be really laid back and fun. It's kind of just me talking and nerding out about like yeast or something.
Sounds like, not only sounds like a class, it sounds like a great class.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
class
you,
I
Captain.
would never cut.
Yeah, it's a good one, and you get to drink. I had someone in my class who was studying for his level 1 Cicerone, and so that was really cool. He had a lot of questions about the different types of hops and what they do, and so I'll usually also put out a little jar of hops and a little jar of malt. And if they want to eat the malt, they can, because malt is very edible. I mean, you could eat hops, but that's pretty gross. It wouldn't kill you, but it tastes gross. Malt actually tastes kind of good, and I'll let them try like a chocolate malt and see how that tastes very kind of burnt, like burnt toast, and talk about the Maillard reaction. So people will have questions around that. And I will talk about, the different hops, like Matuka, it's a New Zealand hop, for example. So it might have like a white wine characteristic to it, and Centennial, and how that's going to be a little more like herbaceous and resiny. And so once I kind of get on a subject, I find that people will sort of zone in on that and sort of say like, why? It's sort of like, when you're babysitting a 3-year-old and they're like, why? And I love it. Like, because I think that we should all tap into our like preschool selves, like at least once a day for an hour.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Have the mind of a 3-year-old and just be inquisitive and just have no like ego and don't worry about things. And so, and sometimes I don't know the answer and I'm just kind of like, I don't know that. Or if our brewmaster, Jared, who is incredible, if he's wandering around, I'll grab him, but he's usually off on Saturdays. But he can always answer things more eloquently than I can. But, the questions really do vary, but it kind of depends on like what the subject is. And then they usually want to know like why something is the way it is. So it's very challenging, and I love the challenge. It's good, because sometimes I'm like, you know what? Why is that? But I usually know the answer.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's great that so many breweries are doing some sort of version of this one, and I'm sure yours is very unique. Is it pretty much the same every month, or do you have a new theme every month to sort of like so to encourage people to come back again?
Yeah, so I've only done 2 so far.
Okay.
And my goal is to change it up each month and have a little bit of a different theme. But I don't know how many reoccurring guests I'm going to get. I feel like most people coming, it's kind of a one-time thing.
Okay.
They might come again. They might not. I feel like people are kind of just doing it because it sounds interesting and like a fun way to spend an afternoon. Because I it's at 3:00, so it's kind of post-brunch before dinner. But I just sort of tell people when I send them the email reminding them about it, like, I'm going to talk about whatever kind of comes in my head. So it is, to answer your question, Captain, it's always a little different. The history of beer, that's always going to be the same,
Right.
And then going through the brewing process, that's always going to kind of be the same too, but it's going to vary a little bit.
Probably based on what's on tap and what the samples are each time.
Yeah, and if something is really, like if the flavor profile is really driven by that yeast strain, like the juice caboose, as I was mentioning, we use an English ale yeast, and that's actually giving a lot of a stone fruit vibe,
Oh,
and then it's being complemented a lot by the hops. So, that might be something that I might go into, different topics on one of those things. So it sort of just evolves. I like it to feel like a natural conversation.
Well, it sounds like a whole lot of fun, especially because if it's at 3 o'clock, you're right, it's post brunch, pre dinner, but also after you're done with your flight of 5, if you want to stick around for another couple of drinks at the bar, it's right there. It's a great time of day to.
It's not weird.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
One other thing you had mentioned about the fact that you're a music venue. On top of that, I mean, or maybe a larger expansion of that. You know, I know it's been a while since we've had a show, but like last week, Beer Wonder was kind of busy for reasons we're going to get into. But also, you were busy because the brewery was doing a big arts festival last weekend.
Yes, we were
nice.
doing the Wanderlinger Music and Arts Festival. I'm holding up the poster now for it.
Nice.
I loved our graphics. So this was our second annual music festival, and it was so awesome. It was so much fun. It's called the Wanderlinger Music and Arts Fest, and we're, trying to do it annually. We have a ton of local acts that play, also some regional headliners. We had Funk You. They were awesome. We had fire twirlers. We had
God.
we had vendors set up with local art. It was so much fun, and we were just like making burgers all day for people. I was pouring beer and taking Instagram stories because I do our social media too, and it was great. We had over 30 acts, and that's something like Wanderlinger is so bold. We are so bold, and we're always trying new things, and we're really not afraid to push the envelope, and that's something that I really love about working at Wanderlinger, because why keep it just beer? Like, let's do beer and music because they go so well together. And Mike, this was really his baby. And my hat's off to him, because that is a big, very expensive undertaking to do a festival. And he pulled it off in such a beautiful way. And it was all these amazing artists. And, Sunday was family day. So there was a lot of people with their kids. And it just was an absolutely beautiful day. And it was on the night of the eclipse, which was so cool. So I don't know if you guys got to see the moon, but it was amazing.
I'm sure you could see it better where you were than where we are.
Yeah, we get weird like city lights and cloud cover, but
it was awesome.
I remember hearing about it. That it was probably pretty incredible.
It was awesome.
So talk about the vibe, because you've Brooklyned, and now you have Chattanooga. So like you get it, and now you've been there for a while. We've checked in with you. That you've. What's the Chattanooga vibe?
I would say the Chattanooga vibe is, it's outdoorsy, but not as outdoorsy as like Asheville, North Carolina. There is a budding craft beer scene. We have a local like brew bus, brew tour company that is awesome, Chatta Brew Tours. We have great food and beverage happening. So a great food and beverage scene. So if you want to go out and kind of be fancy and get like a proper Manhattan with Chattanooga whiskey, that's a local, because we're known for Tennessee whiskey.
Is it rye whiskey or bourbon?
So it's just going to be whiskey. Yeah, so it's not
bourbon. They don't specify bourbon or rye. Interesting.
Yeah, it's just called Tennessee whiskey. So yeah, in order for it to be bourbon, it has to be 51%. Well, it doesn't have to actually be in Kentucky. Bourbon will signify as like, it has to be 51% corn and aged in brand new American oak barrels for a minimum of 2 years. So there's like this specific criteria, and then they can like ship it off to Ireland or Scotland, and they'll use our barrels, and then they just call it whiskey. So we don't have as many of those criterias, but yeah, like you can go get a great Manhattan. You can go get delicious food. So it's kind of got this vibe of city, but also kind of country, because the Tennessee River goes right through the city. I kayak all the time. It's a big thing that I'm into here. So it's very outdoorsy. Like we have an Ironman, whatever you call it, race this weekend. I wouldn't know because I don't do that.
I have heard of them before, so
yeah.
I have heard of them too.
I know
I would die.
Very little bit as well. Yeah,
we are having this mysterious thing called a half marathon in Brooklyn this weekend.
Yeah, ew, gross. Yeah,
I know it sounds exhausting. I would rather sit on the sidelines and drink a beer.
I don't run.
No, the only time I ran was when I realized I left something in the checkout line at the grocery store, and I like ran to go get it. That's like the only time I run. But
that seems reasonable.
Yeah, it was very reasonable. But yeah, Chattanooga, it's beautifully half outdoorsy and half city where you could just get like all the finer things, and I just love it. It's great. It's a
Sounds
great
like a good
vibe.
combination. Yeah.
Super laid back too, and good music scene. There's a good little music scene here.
And speaking of places that aren't New York, you were on a trip recently, weren't you, Beer Wonder?
I was. So if you've been listening to the Bruce Less Traveled podcast, where the captain and I are guests under our less than assumed names.
Yes.
Yes, this month, we are featuring, the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And, I was, on assignment, recently,
Yes.
meaning I was not on the beer cast because I was back in Minnesota, drinking some beers with my dad. And so I shouted out a couple beers on the Brews Less Traveled podcast, but I did want to shout out just a couple of excellent beers and breweries that I had while I was there. I was drinking with my dad. And Hazy, or Dunkle Dame, you had a previous moniker, which I believe was the Hazy Lady.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I've gone through
I
a
mean,
few.
you know,
So many names.
People discover themselves in beer, and that's how this works. But my father definitely is of the hazy variety, and so I wound up having 3 hazies with him while we were home, all Minnesota breweries. One, of course, was from Fair State. I have had it on the beer cast. It was the Party Forward. It was delicious, again, the second time around. The second one was from Falling Knife, which will be featured on the Brews Less Traveled podcast soon.
Yes.
It was the Verbal Tip. And then the third is one of my favorite and my father's favorite beers, which was the Price Miraculum Midwest IPA.
Yay, that sounds good.
Dunkle Dame, have you come across the Midwest IPA as a style?
I have heard of it,
Okay.
but can you tell me more about it? Because isn't it a little bit between a hazy and like a bitter West Coast?
Yes, it is meant to be the flyover country, if you will, of IPAs. So the idea is that it is meant to have sort of like a resiny quality with a fruity sense to it. So usually it starts fruity and it kind of ends a little bit with a bitterness.
I like
It
that.
doesn't have it doesn't quite have the punctuation that this guy right here has, the delicious juice caboose that I'm having. But it's sort of meant to be a mix between the two. I've had a few attempts at this style, and I gotta say the Miraculum by Price is probably the best attempt that I've had so far.
Nice.
So for those of you who have Midwestern distribution, it is definitely not coming to Gotham, unfortunately. We don't get a ton of Minnesota beers here. Although Price, if you're listening, the Beer Vengers, we gonna help you out, okay? If you need those connections, we do know these lovely people at the Beer and Cheese Collective in Astoria.
Yes, they
that
look
could
at
probably
the Fair State stuff. They were the ones who turned us on to Fair State.
Exactly. So that was probably the winner of the 3. I mean, all of them were excellent, but I was very impressed by this sort of emerging style. It's the best version of the Midwest IPA I've had in a bit.
I don't know if it exists all over the Midwest, or if you have to be like almost further west. Because I mean, I grew up in Ohio, which is also considered the Midwest, and haven't been there a lot lately. But when I've been there, I've not discovered that style. So it's not even necessarily all over the Midwest. In fact, I think you're the only person I've ever heard of this style from. So hopefully we'll all be getting it.
Well, clearly,
you're a pioneer.
I am the trendsetter.
You
I am
are.
the trendsetter. That's what I'm doing. I did also want to make a quick shout out. I was in Minnesota for a Clark Kent opportunity. Let's put it that way. See, yes, that's what I did there. But I was in Rochester, Minnesota, home to the world famous Mayo Clinic, and don't worry. Everything's fine. Beer Wonder is still here to save the world with beer. But while I was there, I did hang out at the Forager Brewery, which is a small brewery in the Rochester area, and I had their Ariana Pequeña IPA, which is a delicious session IPA that is made with German. Oh boy, I'm going to screw this up. Ariana Lupomax, and then it is dry hopped with Citra and more of the Ariana. It's a delicious, delightful beer, and gentle enough in its ABV that I had 2, and still felt good afterwards. So.
I love what a lightweight you are. It's so cute.
Yes.
You know, here's the thing. When you are the Beer Wonder, it's kind of expected. It comes with the territory.
You know, it's interesting. However, as many times as you've just plugged Brews Less Traveled, I feel like we have the original host of it with us here tonight. We really need to talk about that whole history for those of you who haven't taken a recent deep dive into our back catalog. When we first met Dunkle Dame / Hazy Lady / Molly Lamb, she was just starting that podcast, and we were being invited at various times to be guests on her show, and then we invited her to be on our show, and now we're doing it after she's left it, and we're on there telling them to listen to our show with the original Bruce Less Traveled host on here. So it's all so incestuous.
Yeah, it is.
The snake is eating its tail,
Yeah.
and then another snake showed up, and now that snake is like a figure. It's a whole situation. There's a lot of snakes.
Yeah.
It certainly is.
Yeah, but the Bruise Less Traveled, or BLT as I like to call it, was just so much fun. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm still actually using my Bruvana glass right now.
I noticed, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, what a cool job. You know, I mean, I really have just the most infinite amount of gratitude for that role. I got to travel and go to cool cities and try cool beer, and it was great to just have people believe in me and say, you can do this, because I had a lot of imposter syndrome around that. I was incredibly nervous and anxious before doing that podcast. Like, I almost didn't want to do it. You know, I had to really push myself, and it ended up being such a confidence booster to learn how to speak publicly about beer. And I had both of you as co-hosts, and it was just awesome. And my boss, Julie, she's just was so amazing and just incredible and encouraging all the time.
Well, they miss you, but the show must go on, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Brian's hosting it now,
He's
right?
doing great. Yeah. He's doing a
I
really good
bet.
job.
Oh, he's super knowledgeable about beer, and he's just fun to talk to. I love Brian.
He keeps getting distracted by sports, though.
Yes, he's
On the podcast.
Yeah, there was a funny little clip from last week's show where he would just they just sort of excerpt this play, was like, I'm not going to watch it, and there's like, oh, they just scored it's on the Bruvana Instagram feed. Very funny, like a little 30-second clip of him trying to stay focused but being distracted by the hockey game.
Wow, I was much more uptight about it than he was. That's I'm impressed. That's awesome.
But no, he's doing a great job. But it's great to hear that you are continuing the tradition of informal beer education out into the world, because that is important.
I'm still being educated myself. I am still learning all the time. I have a long, long way to go. So, again, with the imposter syndrome, but it's just fun to talk with people and just hold myself accountable and keep me showing up and sharing craft beer and sharing the awesome things that Wanderlinger's doing. It's just super fun.
Well, very cool.
Well, Captain, have you... I mean, here's the thing. I was dealing with the Midwest, making sure that is held down. The Dunkel Dame is making sure that the South is cared for, but someone's got to keep an eye on Gotham while we're gone.
Well, sure. Yeah, I've just been here mostly inside my apartment. In fact, one of the things while doing that, I was scrolling through my Instagram. There was a very funny thing that happened back to my Midwestern roots. When I was in Dayton, we talked about the Barrel House, which is a place. They're the ones that had that big sign in there saying, don't be a dick. They're like way ahead of the curve as far as, making sure they're COVID safe beyond what the legal standards are. And they've been, very socially progressive, and they have a big outside their place, a big Black Lives Matter banner. Well, a few nights ago, some guy went down and stole it. But they actually have the security footage of him doing it. And they posted that on their Instagram. But it was just really funny, this just sort of like skinhead idiot who he walked up with purpose. You just could see him like staring. It's like, and this did like the caption was, "Oh, poor little guy didn't like our banner."
I like that they can laugh at it.
And not only did he tear it down, but he like walked away with it, I guess, to make sure. I don't know what he was going to do with it afterwards. But they said, and so the message that was like, and despite what you're seeing right here, and the fact that this banner is an outsider store, we still believe that Black Lives Matter. So just getting that out there, getting it clear. But it was, it's pretty funny because the guy looks ridiculous doing it.
Oh, absolutely. And to steal something that's meaningful like that and poignant is completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, and also, Karma's a bitch.
It's a real bitch. I've talked to Karma. Yeah. She's a bitch.
It was like
whether I know you have her on speed dial, so it's good.
Whether they catch the guy or not, it's just funny that video exists. If there's like just really petty, petulant bullshit going on. Yeah. But I did the other day found myself at a brewery. I went out to there's this place in Astoria called Astoria Seafood that I read about. it's my neighborhood, but I read about it in the New Yorker 7 years ago, and I finally got there. It's this cool place where you go and you basically pick out your own fresh fish. It's like it's not quite like a lobster tank, but they have like all the fresh fish on ice. You take a plastic bag, you take the either a whole fish or a piece of fish, and take it up to the counter and tell them how you want them to cook it, and that's how it is. But no real bar there. And they were so busy, we didn't want to linger too long there because like we don't want to take up this table. So because like it's just such a popular place, even on a Tuesday night. So I wound up walking down to LIC Beer Project, thinking. And a lot of times in recent years when I've seen them, they're so into the hazies and the double dry hop. But they they had Lunacy on tap, which is one I might have even had on the show at one point, which is their Imperial Stout. And then they also had this barley wine that's like holiday style. It's called Fireside Chronicle. And it has a lot of those. Yeah, it has a lot of those holiday spices in it. And I was there with Belgian Babe, and she was heard to say,
"There's nutmeg in here."
Yeah, she did. She said that there's nutmeg in here, and there was. And so, yeah, no big surprise there. But it was really nice hanging out there. And yeah, that's really the end of that story. It's just nice to see. It was just one of those things where we're thinking like, okay, we rushed out of there for dinner. We're not ready to go home yet. So, there's a brewery not far from here. So that was fun.
I think I saw that photo on your Beer Avengers podcast of you and Belgian Babe.
Yes, that was on our Instagram.
Yeah. Or sorry, not on your podcast. Did I say podcast? On your Instagram.
It is related to the podcast.
They're connected.
The Instagram mostly exists, so people hopefully will. I mean, I'm glad people enjoy liking those. I hope some of them are driven to the podcast as well.
Yeah.
Because we have so much fun here, and I'd hate for them to miss out.
Yeah, no, your Instagram's fun. You do a good job. But yeah, I saw the photo of you and the Belgian Babe there, so that sounds like it was fun.
It was indeed. All right, so anything else specifically going on in Chattanooga that you want to let us know about?
Oh, man.
Or with the brewery?
Not a whole lot. I mean, we're just continuing to make great beer and, be hospitable to our guests and host our beer school and just educate people and be a really fun spot for people to come and host their events at and just have special memories at. Wanderlinger's a great, great spot. If you're someone who is artistic in your soul, you will love it.
Excellent. I hope I get there eventually.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Road trip to Chattanooga, Beer Avenger style. I feel like that is definitely on the books.
I would love that.
Road trips are fun.
Well, now, if we are in Chattanooga, or if we're not in Chattanooga, but we just want to keep up with what's going on, where should we look, Dunkle Dame? Where can we find you, and where can we find stuff at Wanderlinger?
Yeah, you can definitely follow Wanderlinger Brewing on Instagram. I do all of their social media. You can find me at Molly Dolly Polly Molly. That is my personal Instagram, and I'm always posting a lot of dumb crap on there. So that's great. But definitely follow Wanderlinger Brewing on Instagram, and you can see all of our amazing events. We have live music several nights a week, poetry nights and open mic nights, and it's a fun spot.
Excellent. And of course, if you want to look up the Beer Avengers, most of you who are listening probably know everything I'm about to say because you're listening and you're listening to the whole episode. But as always,
but you should tell them again.
I will tell them again. If you want to, do the email thing, we're at thebeeravengers@gmail.com. You can find us in all the social places at the Beer Avengers. That's on Facebook. That is on Twitter. That is on Instagram. And yeah, you can download us whenever, download or stream wherever you can find your podcasts. If there's somewhere where you find your podcast and we're not, let us know that too, because we'll get it right on top of that. Anything else we need to talk about, Beer Wonder?
Just to remind people to continue to support their local breweries, especially if they're in Chattanooga. Make sure you support Wanderlinger Brewing Company, another excellent addition to the Beer Avenger sphere.
Absolutely. And I have a feeling the next time Beer Wonder and I hang out, we'll probably be sitting somewhere outside with the numbers looking the way they are now.
Yep, you know it, Captain.
Oh no, and I'm it's the weather for it, so perfect. It'll be. I'll really. I mean, I will give you a lot less shit about. I didn't give you shit about it. I understand.
You gave me no shit.
I know. I understood why you were doing that. Why you're and some of your sit. Anyway, I was happy to sit outside with you, but I will be even happier to sit outside with you now. Because the weather is so lovely in New York now. Even when it's overcast, it's lovely. And so I will look forward to having a beer outside with you very soon. And anyone else listening there, you can join us for beers here or anywhere. Or I think that's it for this week. Very soon, we hope to be having yet another former New Yorker on the show. But that's all I'll say for now. But you can't possibly be looking forward to it as much as we are, but hopefully you're looking forward to it as well. And
speaking of, I do see a wandering Huck in the distance.
Oh yeah.
They're
A hophead.
he's coming closer.
And he's got his ukulele with him too.
He does. It's a good sign. It's a good day.
Huck, would you mind playing us out?
Oh, fuck yeah, my dude.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. Thank you so much for coming once again. I'm always look forward to seeing you, and I always look forward to telling Nutpool that you've been on so many more times than he has, because
say what you will about Nutpool.
Say what you will. He'll probably even say it first, because depending on what mood he's in. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you for being here, Dunkle Dame, Hazy Lady, Molly Lamb. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
And Huck's gonna play us out now.
With a beer, Avengers, beer, Avengers, beer, Avengers.
We're the Beer Avengers.